This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. So the Cavs technically they play today or they played yesterday. Whenever this video comes out, maybe they have 51 wins, maybe they don't. But what we do know is that the Cavs have a home court in over 50 wins for the first time without LeBron James on the team since 1993.
I wasn't even alive then.
I wasn't even like in my mom's stomach.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it's been a long time. It's also been a similar amount of time since the Knicks have won like a first round series or something crazy like that. I think they've done it once in like the last 23 years. Cavs and Knicks, a lot of people I think have, at least in the East, this is the playoff series everybody has their eyes on. It's Madison Square Garden. It's the Cavs without LeBron. You know, there's a lot of like stories built into this. Obviously, the Donovan Mitchell. Oh, he could have been a Knicks storyline that we've really milked. There is the whole Jalen Brunson versus Donovan Mitchell, because people forget Jalen Brunson knocked off Donovan Mitchell with the help of Luka Doncic last year in the Western Conference playoffs, when I think the Utah Jazz were like a 2 or 3 seed. Like, it was a big upset. So there is that coming in to this storyline. And there's a lot of questions with this young Cavs team, because I was listening to Brian Windhorst on the podcast, and he was talking about how, like, if you just looked at some of the like ratings and indicators that you usually would use as an indicator of what teams can have playoff success, the Cavs are off the charts on every one of them, right?
Yeah.
Offensive rating, defensive rating, team rating, and then I think the other one was like point differential. Like, the Cavs are off the charts on all of those.
Yeah.
But so many of us that's watched this team goes, nah, something don't feel right with that, right? Like, something, it doesn't feel like it's there yet. Now, we could be surprised. Donovan Mitchell could, step it up into another level. One of the questions I had in one of my videos this week, and I'm going to ask you this question. We know Donovan Mitchell was a superstar. We knew that when we traded for him. He's been better than he's ever been, objectively so.
Yeah.
Now, the question is Donovan Mitchell on the same level of star as Joel Embiid? He's like, nobody's going to be there with Giannis.
No.
Giannis is probably the best player in basketball. But is he up there with Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, and postseason Jimmy Butler? Like, is he there yet with those guys? I think that's what this postseason answers. We know he's an all-star starter, but there is a line of delineation between being one of those guys who we feel like can put the team on their back, who you feel like can be the best player on the championship team, and being a really, really good player.
Yeah. I think it's hard because I especially look at someone in that conversation like Joel Embiid. He is so much more physically dominant than Donovan Mitchell. It's so hard to compare the two players, because you look at Embiid and the way he plays and you see stardom, like you see the star power there. But then when you look at results based, like, I don't think Embiid has better results than Donovan Mitchell based on like playoff success and how far Embiid has been able to take his team over the years. But in terms of how they play, like, I think it's pretty clear that Embiid has that X factor that most guys just are never going to have because of his physical traits and the different things he can do. So it is tough to compare. I don't want to put Donovan on that level yet because I think I need to see it happen with this core. I think Donovan can be the best player on a championship team, but he obviously has to be surrounded with the right core, and we definitely are building that. I just don't know if it's going to be right now or a couple years from now. I'd like to see it really happen and see him take that step in the playoffs in a big series and when you're playing in Madison Square Garden and see what he does in those moments in order to feel a little more confident in that.
Yeah, and so much about basketball. Like there's a lot about numbers with it, and then there's some things you can't really describe
Yeah.
without being kind of like artistic about the game.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where it's like somebody's gonna be in the comment and be like, you look at his playoff numbers and all that, he's done well. And nobody's denying, like, when we say he's a superstar can get hot and win you a playoff game.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the ability to will you to a playoff game, right? That's a different level, right? There what, three guys in the NBA at an elite level right now, maybe four, that we have seen it from. And I don't like it. Like, it's obviously LeBron. We've seen it from LeBron. We don't know if he's still there yet,
Right.
but
I will never doubt it, though.
We've seen him, like,
LeBron could do that
even
this
in
year.
small things where he's like, I need to get like 37 points to get the scoring title, right when everybody's gonna be paying attention. Like, he just decides he's gonna do it
Right.
because he's LeBron. Like, we've seen him do this before. Game 6, with the infamous meme in Miami. I mean, game 5, 6, and 7 in the NBA Finals in 2016. His NBA Finals in Miami. Remember the Thiago splitter dunk, and then he like comes back, like gets a dunk. Like, he's done crazy stuff in the clutch. There's Kevin Durant. There's Steph Curry, who we saw do this last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is Giannis, who we saw do it in 2019.
100%.
That's really it. Like when those are the four guys, if you have those four dudes on your team, if you make the playoffs, people can think you will win the championship no matter where you're at.
Yeah.
Just because you have those four. Now, Donovan's he probably will never get to that point. Like, we know when you're going to get to that point by this time in Donovan Mitchell's career. Yeah. But he can't get to that Jason Tatum point. He can't get to that Joel Embiid point. He can't get to that level, and that level can win you a championship, right?
100%.
Like,
Jason Tatum was right there. Tatum was literally steps away from doing it.
Yeah, like Jason Tatum was steps away from doing it. Jimmy Butler was steps away from doing it. Like, it can get to that point with him. I would love to see it happen with him, because I know he can get hot and put up a ridiculous stat line. I want to see, all right, let's say we're up 3-1 and it's game 4 in the game 5.
Don't say 3-1 like that. Yeah. You can't just throw 3-1 out there.
Up 3-1 or something like that. But like a closing game situation where Donovan Mitchell makes it very clear that we're not losing tonight. You know, that all of a sudden changes your expectations for the playoffs, because when you have that guy in the playoffs, very hard to beat you. Now the Cavs, I think people are kind of sleeping on stylistically how difficult they are to beat in a playoff setting, because they're flexible. And while they have not ever gone through these adjustments, there is no more malleable team in a playoff style than the Cleveland Cavaliers are. They have two ways to beat you offensively. We've seen them beat you on nights where the front court gets 30, with both front court players, and then the back court kind of gets you nothing. And we've seen them just overwhelm you with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those slept-on things about this team. Now, look at the Knicks. A lot of people are hyping up now it's the Knicks. It's New York. We know how they go, and you know how the hype goes. A lot of people hyping up the Knicks. Are you as worried about the New York Knicks as everybody else is for this Cavs team, or is there something I'm just missing with them?
No, I'm not as worried as other people. I feel like I'm enjoying that, like, the beef has started between Cavs and Knicks fans, and they're like starting to say, is Evan Mobley even that good? And I'm like, oh, okay, now we're fighting. Like, I'm ready to fight now. So I'm excited that the banter has started, but I don't know if I feel like they are getting hyped up more just because of some of the highs they have had this season. And the really, big moments where they're going on long winning streaks and everyone's like, oh, are the Knicks actually a legitimate team? Whereas I feel like we've had some of those winning streaks, but it's been more sporadic recently where people can't reflect in the same way. I did see some Knicks fans saying that they feel like they have a deeper bench than we do, which could very well be the case, but I don't know how much that matters in the playoffs. And I think sometimes people overvalue the bench a little bit in the playoffs. Of course, like, I would like us to have a little more depth, but at the end of the day, like, you're playing your starters a lot. You are playing your starters a ton in the playoffs, and they're getting the majority of the time. So When I put up our top 5 against their top 5, like I feel pretty good about what I am seeing. I think potentially even we have maybe the best 3 players out there between Donovan, Darius, and Evan. I know for them too, Julius Randle is potentially going to be missing some time. I know they've been like wishy-washy on when he will be able to return with his ankle injury, and that would be a massive loss for them as well. So with all of those things considered, like I do think we are the better team and we should be winning this series, health and everything intact.
Yeah, and also when it comes to playoff basketball, like there's 2 things that really, really help you: your ability to rebound, your ability to play defense, and your ability to shot create. Those are 3 things the Cavs are really good at. So like when I look at the Knicks, I look at them and go, who's going to get them a bucket consistently when they need it? Jalen Brunson is a good every once in a while, I'll get you a bucket, right? In the same way that Darius Garland is like, hey, he's going to get you some buckets. But if he has to get you all the buckets, that's not his game. Same thing with Julius Randle.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can look at like what it was a big deal when Jalen Brunson had a 48-point game. It is not even news when Donovan Mitchell scores 40.
Literally. It's
They're
like,
on 2 different planets of scores, right? Like it's just like Donovan Mitchell has scored 40 points for the last 4 games, and we just look at it as normal. It used to be news, like it would be news if somebody scored 30 on the Knicks.
Yeah.
It is not news when Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland scores 30 because like it happens all the time. Like I think they both have had the most 30-point plus games in their career this season. I feel like Donovan Mitchell has had more 30-plus point games this season than he's had his whole career. Probably. I don't know what the stats are on that, but it's got to be close because he almost averaged 30. Like a legitimate, I just went out there and scored 30 every night kind of 30. But if we forget like how many points 30 is.
15 years ago, that would have been like, on ESPN when they would have the little side tickers, like that would be on a ticker for someone if like 40-point game, like let's talk about it, have a whole section of a discussion.
Carmelo never averaged close to 30.
Yeah.
And he was one of the best scorers. Like he didn't score 30 that much. Like it's crazy how this has changed. And I think that's ultimately going to be the biggest problem for the Knicks is that when this thing does slow down, defensively, they won't get blown out because they're able to play that defensively. Offensively, though, where they're going to run into problems is they're probably going to give away a lot of possessions taking bad shots.
Yeah.
And the difference in the playoffs is if you got players who could make bad shots, it's usually the difference. In the Cavs, look, if the defense is equal, the Cavs have more of an ability to make bad shots than the Knicks. I mean, they could talk about the bench depth all they want. Who's a better bench scorer? RJ, or not RJ Hampton. RJ, was it RJ Young? Not RJ Young. That's a beat reporter. RJ.
So close. Barrett.
RJ Barrett. RJ, who off the bench is coming up? Like you're about as confident in RJ Barrett's ability to give you buckets as you are in Karis LeVert's ability to give you buckets, right? Like I think some people view the Cavs kind of like the Atlanta Hawks in like 2010 when they had Mike Bibby, buff Mike Bibby. But this is not that because they have 2 legitimate scorers, one coming off the bench in a rotation of bigs where that's not necessarily the case. Now, Isaac Okoro, he's a big piece in that. He's been out. What have you seen defensively missing from this team in his absence?
Yeah, well, I said to you before we started recording that like I never thought I would say, wow, like I really miss Isaac Okoro. Like if you told me that at the beginning of the season after a couple weeks when we were kind of coming down hard on him, that I would be feeling that way at this point. But I definitely do. Like we certainly missed him. And I think it was also the combination of him and Jarrett. I think that was such a big deal because Jarrett is such a huge part of our defense as well. So having both of them out, like it was a glaring, difference in what we can do defensively. But in general, like having Isaac's ability to a lot of times guard the best player on the other team, like we don't have someone else that can do that in a lot of situations. Obviously, it's very matchup dependent. Depends on who we're playing, but certainly missed him. And it's weird. JB has made some comments about I'm not going to, give anything definitive. I don't know for sure. So I have no idea when he's going to be back, but just really hoping that he can get healthy in the next, 2 weeks and not have to miss any time. So we will see.
Who on the Knicks, like, scare? Like, is it Jalen Brunson that's supposed to scare us the most on that team?
Yeah.
Like, who,
Or,
who
I
on that
mean,
team?
I guess like Julius too, if he was healthy, but he's probably going to miss a couple games. Like, I don't think he's going to be in the first few games at least.
Yeah, they got Josh Hart, who's all right. And then what? IQ,
At one
Immanuel
point, I wanted
Quickly,
us to trade for Josh Hart. I feel like I felt that at one point. I was like, oh, yeah.
Obi Toppin. I don't. Derrick Rose is still on that team. Does he play minutes? Like
I
I
don't,
don't,
I don't
I
think
don't remember the last time I've seen him on
Quick
the floor.
Quickly has had some moments. He's decent, but yeah, there's not much that terrifies me when I look at them.
Yeah, and I get they're a hard scrabble team, and I get that they're a
Sure.
tough team and everything else like that. But the Cavs are that too. And I don't know. Sometimes we do this whole like doom dread thing where it's like,
Oh
oh
yeah.
my goodness, we're gonna lose to the Knicks, and we think it like makes us not feel any worse if that happens. It's like you're gonna feel bad
Yeah.
if they lose to the Knicks
Either way.
anyways.
Yeah.
You might as well feel good right now when you
The
can.
other the other thing I saw Knicks fans doing recently was because everyone talks about the Cavs young core. We've got like such a young core, and that's all everyone talks about. And they were like, oh, but on average, their team is actually younger than ours overall. I'm like, okay, that doesn't matter. Like, yeah, we got Ricky Rubio, we've got some older guys that pull up the average. Look at our starting five, the core we have. Like, okay, why are we doing this argument?
That's a silly argument too, because like you could just have like some 19-year-olds on the bench and then boom, like
Totally.
they
It
bring
pulls it
down the
down.
average.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
we
but
just
like
have we have a couple older guys. We
how
got
old are your good players? So
Yeah.
Evan Mobley's in his second year, Darius Garland's in his third, Donovan Mitchell is 26.
Yeah.
Like the
We're
core
fine.
is young. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
It's just a
So
funny, I love this time of year because you start picking at everything. Like you find the smallest hole and you just go for it to put down the other team.
now the other big question is like, how does this team in total respond to being on the bigger stage? And that was one of the encouraging things that I think, again, when we only look at things through an analytical frame, we forget there are other reasons you make moves than just the numbers. You trade for Donovan Mitchell, so you have a basketball team that people are talking about more often. Because one of the things I felt in 2021 that was an issue for this team, or 2022, well, last year
Yeah.
was an issue for this team, was once everybody started paying attention to the Cavs, they did not know how to handle that pressure. Right. And we've seen this with LeBron teams where, young players get like that. That's really what it is. When you realize everybody's watching you and not just the people in the arena, not just the people at home, but like everybody's going to have something to say
Mm-hmm.
about what you did in this basketball game. That's different. With Donovan Mitchell, one of the things I think helps is you don't have that issue anymore because last year's team, the pressure was kind of like carried by everybody.
Yeah.
The pressure's on Donovan Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
If he does not win this series, people are going to say, oh, look, the Knicks lucked out not trade. They got further than they would have.
They're already doing it. They're already doing it.
or it's going to be seen as a detriment to him. It's not really going to be seen as a black eye on Evan Mobley or Darius Garland. Like they're not playing under the same amount of pressure that they were last year in the play-in, where it was on them. This is on Donovan Mitchell. And Donovan Mitchell has played an insane amount of playoff games for somebody who's 26 years old.
Yeah.
Like and is not named LeBron James or something like that. Like, I think he's played like 30 or something like that. Like, and that's an insane amount. So this is not new to him.
Yeah.
The scrutiny is not new to him. And he's the one who has to carry the weight, which I think frees up everybody else to do what they have to do. Karis LeVert playing well is really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's also something that can help because, Darius Garland's going to have a couple games where he puts up a pretty disappointing stat line in the playoffs because they're going to adjust to him in a way that he's never been adjusted to before. Evan Mobley is going to have a game or two where he's going to look bad, like objectively bad, because they're going to adjust to him in a way that he's never done. Like, that's the part of the playoffs. Like, the pressure of it, I'm not worried about that. The part that I'm like, hey, with the young pieces, this is going to be an issue is that stuff, because they've never been in a situation where they're going to play 2 games, get on a plane, and play 2 more games against the same opponent that's been game planning for you for what, 3 weeks now? I mean, we know we're going to play the Knicks for the whole second half of the season.
Pretty much, yeah.
So there is something being cooked up. Now, JB, he's also new to this, right? Tom Thibodeau on the other side, very experienced coach.
Yeah.
Like had years of playoff runs in Chicago, years of playoff runs. Well, not years of playoff runs, not in Minnesota, but has had some success here in New York too. So very experienced playoff coach, very good coach. We all know how Tom Thibodeau gets down. So that's going to be something he's going to put pressure on. It's like, hey, I'm going to make their rookie play, well, not rookie, but their playoff rookies kind of feel the pressure here. So those are things I'm worried about. And here's where I'm at with it. I know people online are going to be unreasonable about this, but I'm personally going to say I'm okay if Darius Garland and Evan Mobley don't necessarily look great in the playoffs, as long as it feels like at some point they start to figure it out.
Yeah.
The last game or 2 or so, right? I'm not going to blame them if they get to the second round and they get completely shut down by Giannis and Drew Holiday. That's fine. Like, okay.
Right.
They learn something.
It happens.
Maybe they have a game or 2 where there's like, they're starting to figure some things out, but it's going to take years. Yeah. Giannis looked terrible when he first got to the playoffs.
Yeah.
In Milwaukee. People forget that because nobody cared about Giannis at that point. So that's something else too, where I'm like, a lot of questions need to be asked that are going to be available to be asked after this playoff run.
Yeah.
Are there, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's interesting too. You were talking about like the, pressure and how it's kind of just different depending on the situation. I feel like the one good thing for them in terms of pressure compared to like the LeBron years, where I feel like everyone around LeBron in Cleveland specifically felt like they had to do it for him, like, man, we got to get LeBron this ring. Like, it was so important. It felt like the end of the world if it wasn't going to happen. And I feel like at certain points for young players, that was a ton of pressure. Because, you didn't want to be the J.R. Smith standing there at the end of a game and totally messing up and having it, be a bad moment. No one wants to be that guy, So I feel like the good thing about this team is it isn't that type of pressure where, of course, Donovan Mitchell is the star and you do want him to perform the best. He has the experience. He needs to step up. But I do feel like it is a little bit more spread out than it was in those times where it is a little bit more team oriented. They really feel like they all play for each other, want to see each other succeed in those types of ways. So I do think that works to their benefit. And I think that's when they've played the best this season, is when they feel like, oh, we're all doing this together, playing for each other. This guy is having his night and then the next night is someone else's. And it feels like, it's not just any one person's game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. I feel like they will. Like, people are taking a lot out of these last couple of games.
Yeah.
They knew that they really just needed to win 2 games and they'll be in their spot. This is like, it's close to the dog days.
Yeah.
It's like it's just, they're tired of regular season basketball. They're ready to play some postseason. And like, they're anxious, just like we are, right? This is a core that thought they would have done this last year. And through injuries, did not get that experience. They got a little playing experience, but they didn't get that. They have been waiting to play in a playoff series at home as much as you have. They are as tired of the regular season.
Oh yeah, they're over it.
If not as much more than you are, because we just got to watch the games. And honestly, we ain't got to watch all of them.
Yeah.
They got to fly to all these games. They got to travel.
This doesn't matter. Yeah. They're like, this does not matter at all.
If the Cavs are playing the Orlando Magic and somebody offers me something better to do that night, I can just do something better and watch the game on DVR. Yeah. That is that. And even I'm like, yo, the regular season, it's time for this to be over.
Yeah.
Imagine if you can't do nothing because you gotta be at the game. Like, that's a different level of tired of it. So I don't think there's much we could take away from it. Caris LeVert is shooting close to 50% from 3.
Love that.
Yeah,
Love that.
which would be very useful. And hopefully that means Okoro could come back. I think he probably might come back.
Do you
Like,
think if he doesn't, do you think they start Karras? Or what do they do against the Knicks? Like
I don't think you
Lamar?
want to do anything to mess up what you got with Karras. You finally got
Maybe
Karras
Lamar.
working.
Yeah, because
You
I don't know who else you would do.
maybe they
Dean?
throw in Dean Wade, but
Yeah,
like
maybe
not
Dean.
not in a series against Jalen Brunson. I think you go defense against the Knicks and you go toughness against the Knicks.
Yeah,
You probably throw in, um, you probably throw in, yeah, you probably throw in Lamar. I mean, like it depends on what they're seeing in practice from Danny Green because
right.
that's really what he should be able to do is like spot start here. But the fact that they haven't put him in, like either they're trying
I
to
know.
hide it from everybody or they're
Yeah.
like, but if Danny Green plays against you will know in the comment section. If Danny Green played against the Orlando Magic on April 6th today, okay, he's not starting.
Yeah,
Like,
not happening.
yeah,
I
so
feel like I feel like it would end up being Lamar, which is like funny if you would have said that like 2 years ago, like Lamar is starting in a playoff series. What a crazy thought. And here we are. It could
you would have
happen.
said that 2 months ago.
Yeah,
Like,
honestly. But
yeah.
sometimes things happen and you just got to step up when the time is ready.
All right, so that's kind of our Cavs playoff preview edition. We'll have a lot of time between now and then. Hopefully more to break down as we figure out like who's going to be healthy, who's not.
I know.
A lot of time. A lot of time. A lot. They should. This is like every time I hear someone say no, like a fan say they shouldn't cut down the regular season. I'm like, what are we missing?
Yeah.
What are we
I'm
missing?
like,
Like,
let's just start playoffs
honestly,
now.
the last 2 weeks could have been to play it. Like, as soon as March Madness ends,
Yeah.
start to play in. You know what I mean? Like, what is this 2 weeks? What
Yeah.
are we getting out of this? Nobody's watching it. The tickets are like $10 a pop at Rocket Field Mortgage because nobody wants to go to those games. So season ticket holders aren't even getting their value because they're not even showing up to those games. What are we getting out of playing these extra 10 games? And
Nothing.
did they add more in the new CBA?
I don't think so. But yeah, I didn't read like too much into it.
Yeah, look.
Yeah, I mean it would be silly if they did because clearly it's already a struggle to get guys to play even 75% of the games sometimes. So if you're going to add more, it's just not going to help anyone.
And look, you see, this is where they get this. They always pay, the players want to play less games as if it's only something that could benefit the players. It's like, no, dog, we don't want to watch all these games too.
Right.
Like, it don't got to be this long. You know what I mean? Do 3 games a week for like what? 6? This is what? It started in October. This is like 6 months. You can do this in 4 months, man. 3 games a week in 4 months. That's all you need. The NFL do it in 4.
Right.
You know what I mean? We could.
I was going to say, it's funny. People blame the players too all the time. Half the time it's like the training staffs and the coaches using their, analytics and stuff to be like, oh, this is the number of games that you need to play to be as healthy as possible. So if you add more, they're still going to sit guys because they have their numbers worked out on what's going to make you healthiest.
Not
when you
enough
whatever
conversation has been like, hey, is an 81 game season actually that entertaining to fans versus a 65 game season? Like, I think I would be more up for a 65 game season. I understand the money is why they're not going to change it, even though they raising the prices anyway. So again, none of this benefits us.
No.
Like, the only thing that benefit us is less games, but even then there's still negatives, but it would at least be more entertaining to watch. And with them losing all of their like third party broadcasters, maybe it's time, less games. Maybe it's time. It feels like it, because what are we gaining out of these last 10 games of the year? I have no idea. I don't remember the last time where like this has mattered for anybody.
No.
Like, especially like in the top 4 conversation.
Yeah. I went to our last game last season. It was against the Bucks, and it was basically a dunk contest between the two teams. I was sitting in like the rafters too. I'm like, why am I here? What am I doing here? Yep. It was literally just like no one tried.
And then with the play, and it adds to the regular season where it's like a week longer, and it's like we should just get rid of these last 2 weeks. Half the play-in happen right after March Madness, and then roll straight into the NBA, because this is like, part of our job here as content creators is to keep the momentum going.
It's real hard right now.
There's no momentum to keep up right now because there's no games. There's two games, but there's no games. There's no games. There's no reason for you to watch the last few Cavs games. And I still I don't know if I'm watching tonight. I'll be honest. But that is something that is greatly underthought of when we do, because it's always like, oh, the players need to stay healthy or this and that. And what about the fan that flies in from and spends his last dollar on seeing LeBron James? And that fan is like, what about the dude that gotta watch all these games? You know what I mean?
They don't think about us.
I gotta pay for these games the same price that I pay for all the other games on League Pass. I wouldn't mind to save the $20 to have one less month in the season. I really wouldn't mind it. I think it would be great. Some of the best seasons in NBA history have been lockout shortened. I'm just saying, it is a thing. It
makes it interesting, keeps it interesting.
Much more interesting. You get more wild cards. Imagine the Miami Heat is an 8 seed right now. That'd be crazy. You know what I mean? Yeah. You get more upsets that way. It makes for a much more entertaining product if they just played 10 less games. You know what I mean? And they're already playing 10 less games. Let's just make it 65 games. You know what I mean? There's too many games. They're about to do this with the NFL. They're a game or two away from making it too many games in the NFL.
Yeah, it's getting brutal. And now they're flexing everything. Anything is up for grabs. It's okay, this is not fun.
It's just rough. But that's it for this Cavs Attack. I'm Quincy for Ab. Make sure you check her out on Twitter at Abby_Mueller. It's another underscore there, right? Abby_Mueller.
The other was taken. It's a tough world out there,
Yeah, there's another one. There's another one of you out there.
Don't follow that one. Whoever has the one underscore.
She's not the one. So make sure you follow her there. She has her podcast. She's a girl from Cleveland where she talks about Ohio State. She talks about the Cleveland Browns, the Guardians, who are playing.
They are playing. Opening day tomorrow.
Talk about too many games. Let me tell you something. The reason I don't keep up with baseball is because I'm not watching 163 games again. Nope. No. I played baseball for 12 years. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, dog. It was rough in high school playing 35 games in a season. You know what I mean? That's too many games. It's way too many games for the sport with the least action in it. I can't do it. So way too many games for baseball, but she covers them. Make sure you check her out. Browns, Guardians, Cavaliers, Ohio State, maybe even more on there than even I know, but make sure you subscribe to her podcast. Also check out her SI Digest as we all try to find something to talk about with the Browns this week. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. If you have an idea, tweet it to your favorite content creator right now. Please. Because let me tell you, it is appreciated. It is appreciated.
Think of something that we haven't thought of.
If you're a fan or a listener who has been sitting and watching us, one of us or both of us for a long time and been like, hey, I've always wanted to see a video about this and that. This is the time to suggest, because let me tell you, a good hour and a half of my day is me waking up, drinking my morning tea and going,
what am I going to do?
I guess
74.
What do people talk about? Nothing? Okay. So if you got suggestions, this is the time. Make it shine. You can make an impression in April. But that's it for today's show. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night.